Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SopranoCast. Nate Maxson here with you, along with my associate, Mr. Archie Mitchell.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. And we're back after a bit of a break. A lot of things going on the past few weeks. My daughter got married. On this, the day of my daughter's wedding.
Congratulations to her and her husband. May their family be happy and blessed, and may their first child be a masculine one.
Yeah, we gotta keep with the theme here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that all went off without a hitch, and we are back in the saddle with another edition of the SopranoCast. And on this week's show, I don't know that it's going to be too long, and that's fine. Some episodes, I think we're gonna find as we go through. There's some episodes where there's a lot to unpack.
Right.
And then there's some episodes where there's not. So some episodes of the show might be 20 minutes long. Some episodes might be like, we had one a couple of weeks ago that was 45 minutes long. So it just depends on what's going on. This episode is called, is it Pax or Pax Soprano?
I believe it's Pax Soprano, because this was when they were dealing with a lot of Western stuff. Like Tony was constantly mentioning, different types of Western movies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming it's Pax, but it might be Pax. Who knows?
I know one thing that I did get down here, and again, I don't know if the pronunciation is Pax or Pax, but one of the trivia things that I looked up because I was like, I didn't understand the title. I didn't get it.
Right.
The title, according to IMDb, the title is a reference to Pax Romana, the long period of relative peace in the Roman Empire from the beginning of the Augustus Caesar reign in 27 BC to the end of Marcus Aurelius in 180 AD.
Now that makes sense because Tony does reference Caesar multiple times in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when the peace in the Soprano family starts to kind of get uprosen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because everything starts to get shaken up. So, okay. And you know what? Now I like the episode title even more.
There you go. The episode aired originally on February the 14th, 1999. And, well, let's just start. There's some funny lines in this episode that I had to write down. Even in the first 5 minutes when Tony, I've talked about on previous episodes, I'm not a fan of this cop character.
No.
He's like one of the few characters in this entire run of this show that I'm not a fan of, but it is funny when him and Tony are meeting and Tony tells him, buy yourself an iron,
Yeah.
He's such a wrinkly looking man.
He's a sloppy, just rolled out of bed cop who's mad at the world, and Tony isn't having it because even when Tony's doing things for him, like tell him you don't owe me anything anymore because he's a degenerate gambler, he's still pissed off. You know what I mean? So yeah, Tony really gets off on messing with this guy. It's between the cop and then when he eventually meets Bobby Bacalari, who he gets off on messing with more.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But the cop was the beginning of it all.
Bobby's another story. We'll get to him when he shows up. Bobby's a character. Bobby's one of the few characters in this entire show that is what do you want to say? He's not a half bad human being. He's
wholesome, right?
Yeah,
he's wholesome.
Yeah. He's an idiot. He's a useful idiot. He's
right, but he's there when they need him. You know what I mean? And he's willing to go the extra mile. But then he ends up saying or doing something so stupid that you just go, God. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
But yeah, Tony and the cop again meet because he's still having him figure out things about Milfy, but also about who possibly may be a rat in the family.
Right.
Because now we're starting to have this cop tell Tony, some of my black and white cop car friends are tailing some of your guys around. And they know they're in the rear view, but they're not minding it so much. So now he's starting to make Tony wonder who's the rat, who's talking to the cops.
Yes. We're getting we're starting to build here for the suspense and the drama that's about to come as the season progresses. And we watch this show really start to pick up here in a few episodes.
Yes.
But of course, we have to have Tony at the at Melfi's office, and I just love. Again, I don't know that I would have and I know it's hindsight, and you're like, well, you don't know. It could have been different. But there is nobody I don't think that could have played Tony like Gandolfini.
No.
Just the way that he frames his sarcasm and his smirks and his anger and just everything. Like, like in this scene where he's like, every woman in my life breaks my balls and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And
Yeah.
he's so good. So fucking good.
You know what the bad part is before The Sopranos, James Gandolfini was a bit player in like little movies and things like that, and he was fine. Then they gave him Tony Soprano, and he mastered it. And then everything he did after that could not compare because he wasn't what we wanted. We wanted Tony Soprano. He was the mayor in Pelham of Taking of Pelham 123. He was the father in Christmas. He was in a Christmas movie with Ben Affleck, and he's doing this funny voice now because it's his real voice, not Tony Soprano. And we're like, what the hell is this?
Right.
So
yep.
he really, I guess he sort of got typecasted, but it was the perfect typecasting he could have ever gotten caught into.
Yes.
Because it was built for him. No one else could have paid that.
I guess that's the catch-22 of playing such an iconic character is you get, like for instance, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
I mean, other than obviously he did like voice work doing the Batman animated series. He played the Joker and blah, blah, blah. Right. But he essentially just is Luke Skywalker. He's never, he never got to be anything else because he played such an iconic role.
Right.
That, so it happens to some people. It is what it is. And I'm sure Mark Hamill doesn't mind all the fucking money he makes. Don't get me wrong.
More than sure that James Gandolfini didn't mind it either, because there were talks before he passed away of doing a Sopranos movie with Tony in it, and he was all for it. And he loved his castmates. We talked about that in the past on this show, giving them extra money out of his paycheck, so everybody was caught up and everybody had what they wanted. And he was doing so many things for the show. So it goes to show it never was about, well, I don't want to be Tony Soprano anymore. He was happy in this role.
Right.
And it opened up other doors to him. And granted, those movies that he made after The Sopranos, were not great, nothing groundbreaking, but he was still making Hollywood movies, and he was still looked upon and respected in the Hollywood community.
Yes.
So, and his rapport with Lorena Bracco as Dr. Milfy was even better than his rapport with Carmela, which, and I know they had a great husband and wife thing going on, but when him and Milfy would sit in that office and she would critique him and piss him off, and he'd get that anger and that wanting to say something so hurtful to her, but then he would hold back for a second, was perfect.
Yes, I agree.
So,
yeah, those two had a really great chemistry together on screen. We also have, of course, in this episode, the developments of Junior being the new boss.
Yes, he sends Mikey out on a psycho mission to take out some of the top earners for some of the other crime bosses.
And
they go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They take out a couple of drug dealers, a couple of guys who got money on the street, and it's not sitting too well with Tony's capos because, well, hey, we made him the boss hoping that would take some of the fire off of us when the police came down, but now we ain't making no money.
Yeah, we've created a monster is essentially the gist.
Right.
And then of course we have the scene with Junior at the tailor.
Right.
And I actually, this is, and he doesn't have a lot of redeeming, I guess, good moments in the show. He's normally kind of a bastard, but this is actually kind of a redeeming quality scene for Junior, where
it is.
He's obviously, we don't know the backstory, but you can kind of tell by the way the scene plans out that he's known this tailor forever. This is his guy. Right. They're friendly, and the tailor tells him that his grandkid killed himself. Well, pretty much OD'd, yes,
right,
on drugs, and that gets Junior all fired up about the drug dealers and the way things are.
Right. Right. And I will say this, and I agree with you, it was a redeeming quality, but it was also Junior being over dramatic as well, in that, why did we have to kill the top guy We don't know. We don't know exactly who sold that kid those drugs. We know
Right.
it came from Jimmy Altieri's drug outfit, but they could have killed just one of the dealers. But they killed one of the top guys, so now there was no money trickling down anymore. So it halted everything going on. So it was a little over dramatic. It could have been done many other
Right.
ways, but I guess because he was the new boss, he wanted to set precedents. And the thing I always found odd about Junior, but I also guess that goes with a lot of elderly people. Death follows them. They're the
Yes.
first ones to know when somebody dies. As we're gonna get
Yes.
longer into the show, Junior goes to I don't know how many funerals in one episode just to get out of the house. And
I
it's
want
like,
to tell
wow, how
you.
much?
I want to tell you a funny story about my grandmother.
Go ahead.
And like I said, my grandmother's not sinister like Livia, but she is that self-deprecating woman like Livia is.
Right.
Oh, woe is me. She's very much a woe is me. But I have to chuckle because her high school yearbook,
Hmm.
my grandmother, she's 98. So I
God
guarantee you
bless her.
folks, she's the last survivor of her high school class.
More than
And
likely.
pretty much I call it the high school death book because she literally has written in the yearbook under
Oh
everybody's
God.
picture when they died.
Oh God.
It's not funny, but it's
Oh God. That's so. It's like a yellow pages, but for death.
yeah. Died October 1986 or
Oh,
whatever.
she's even
Just
got their date. Oh
yeah,
man.
even the
Oh
yeah.
my God. Oh my God. Yeah, my great grandmother used to have old videos when we were younger. And as it was, when you go over to visit the grandparents or the great grandparents, they pop on somebody's wedding or somebody's birthday party that they had videoed. And as we got older, we'd rewatch those videos like 10 years later or whatever, 20 years later. And I remember one time I turned over to my cousin. I'm like, you realize everybody in this video is a ghost right now,
Yeah, everybody's dead.
except for maybe 4 people. And he looked at me and go, oh God, that's so bone chilling. I'm like, yeah. I'm
It
like,
is.
look, there's an entire table of people we buried in the last 5 years. He's like, you're absolutely right. This is horrible.
It's pretty nuts. Time is a hell of a thing.
Yeah, yeah. So back to the show though. Obviously,
Yeah.
they killed the drug dealer, and Jimmy runs to Tony to tell him what's going on. The other bosses are there. They're bitching and moaning that Junior's costing them money. And then Junior goes to visit Livia.
Yes, who is once again I say Livia, she's like the Emperor Palpatine of the Sopranos.
Yes.
She's such a villain. She's such a villain. And she has a great line. I told you there's some great lines in this
Mhm.
episode. She has a great line in this scene, Junior and Livia at the obviously at the nursing home, and she says,
Yep.
"Even the coffee's old in here." And
Yep.
that's so funny.
Yep. One of her neighbors passes by. Are you new here? Junior's like, keep moving, pal. He wants nothing to do with anybody that lives there. Keep moving,
Keep
pal.
moving, pal. Yeah, that's I didn't write that down, but that's great too.
So yeah, they're talking, and for some reason, Hesh's name comes up, which we really haven't seen that much of Hesh just yet, except that he's Tony's sort of consigliere, that mob advisor,
Yes.
like a Tom Hagen and The Godfather and things like that. And all of a sudden, Olivia remembers that there was money given and something went on with Johnny, and she thinks that Tex should be that Hesh should be taxed, and advises Junior to do this, and he's like, "Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem."
That's what I'm saying. She's so sinister.
Yeah.
Junior's the boss, but at this point, Livia's pulling the strings.
In my opinion, Olivia was sort of like the Hillary Clinton when Bill was in office. She was the one telling him what to do. You know what I mean? Oh, you're the boss now? Well, I got a few things you need to clean up. Okay, no problem, Olivia. I got it under control. So,
Yes, and I think the Hesh and Livia thing goes back to the relationship between Hesh and Tony's dad.
Yeah, they were
back in the day, and
they used to date girls together. She knew that he was a bad influence on Johnny. Which, look, when you're a mobster, nobody needs to be a bad influence on you. That's just the way it is. But
right,
she's digging up old graves and trying to find out what she can. And Junior being her Puppet goes right for it and says, "Yeah, we're going to take care of it," and ends up taxing Hesh $500,000.
Yes, and Hesh goes to Tony,
Yep.
and in the most polite way he possibly can, says, "Can we fucking straighten this out? Because
Right.
I don't think this is cool at all."
Right. Tony, being Tony, the peacemaker, says, "Yeah, we'll figure out a way, but obviously something does have to be paid." He tries to
Hmm.
go and sympathize with Junior and let him know, Hesh gives you 3% out of his sports book every week, so you're making money off of him already. There shouldn't be a tax. Junior, being Junior, tells Tony basically to go F himself in a polite way, but in an uncle way. And they're at a standstill right for the time being.
And we're gonna get past that hurdle here momentarily.
Right.
But we have Tony has a frisky dream about his psychiatrist.
Yes. The first of many.
Yes. And then I put down here, Tony and Carmela have their anniversary dinner. Here we see Johnny Sack in the,
Yep.
Yes, we finally meet him. And I put down, of course, Tony and Carmela fight. Because
it was such a stupid fight. The man sent them a bottle of champagne to celebrate their anniversary. He didn't come sit at their table. He didn't buy them dinner. He wanted to celebrate. It's what people do, whether you're a mobster or you're a normal Joe Schmo. When you see a buddy celebrating something, you give them a gift of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, though, she being the sulky pants that she is, I thought it was our anniversary, and now it's his, and it's what she does. But it gave her an excuse for what happens next after that.
Yes.
Which made no sense. Again, no sense. Tell them what she did.
Oh, so because of that, she decides she's just going to go out and buy a bunch of fucking furniture.
Right. From the most expensive furniture store in all of New Jersey.
So in other words, she knows what she's doing.
Right. Right. The argument, we had an argument, so you're going to make this up to me by fully furnishing our home again, which I think she dropped like $50,000 because she furnished the entire living room and dining room and kitchen. And he's like, so it's like, yeah, all right, whatever. And she's like, I'll send it back. He knows she can't send it. Who sends back furniture?
Right.
Like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
We know this furniture is not getting sent back.
No. So, okay, she keeps furniture. But again, from a stupid argument to I'm buying furniture. Not a piece of jewelry, not a piece of clothing, furniture.
The other little thing going on here through this whole sequence is Tony kind of finds out that Melfi, she's having problems with her car.
Yes,
he kind of
he overhears it, right?
Yes, he overhears her talking to a mechanic or whatever on the phone, and I think that's the same scene where he brings her a cup of coffee, and she says, "I can't accept gifts," and he tells her
the best line he had in that scene after that was, "Does that mean I can't drink mine?" So it was still about him.
His sarcasm. I love his sarcasm.
It was still about him after all that. So does it mean I can't drink mine? So yeah, he finds out about her car and the alternator, and he cooks up this wonderful plan to woo her by stealing her car.
Yes, woo her by stealing her car
and having it fixed.
And this woman, who is not familiar with what it's like to be in his lifestyle, all of this obviously is very disarming for her and very distressful. But you can understand, her point of view. Like, the way his world works and the way her world works are completely different.
Yes.
Like, if Christopher would do something like that for Adriana, she would look at it as a wonderful romantic gesture. Oh, you have my car stolen and then you had it fixed.
Right.
But for Melfi, being from a totally different world than these people are from, again, it's very disarming for her.
Of course, because first of all, how did you know where I lived? You know what I mean? You're a patient of mine. You're not supposed to know where I live. 2, how easily did you steal my car? Which she didn't know he stole their car at first.
Right.
Because the next scene, she takes the car to a mechanic And he's like, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with your alternator. She's like, but they told me it needed to be fixed for $1,500. He's like, ma'am, this was the best line a mechanic could tell somebody. He was straight as an arrow with her. Ma'am, I'd love to soak you for $1,500, but I can't fix a brand new part. You know what I mean?
It's like, I'd love to take your money, but your money's no good here right now.
Right. It's a brand new part. So, okay, now she puts 2 and 2 together. And we're going to, later on, she's going to probably act, she's going to look to ask Tony about it and see what he says.
Which, actually, we can just limp that together, because then we can talk about the junior stuff, all together as well. But he essentially, she I don't want to say confronts him about having her car fixed, but she gets it out of him that he may or may not have done that for her.
Right.
And then we get a revelation from Tony that he believes that he's in love with her.
Right. Which is not the first time, again, that he declares his love for her and tells her that he thinks that would have been the perfect woman for him if you would have gotten together with her, which I get it. But if you ever paid attention to different mob movies, main characters that are full-blooded Italian, you know what I mean?
Yes.
End up marrying women who are either half Italian, half Jewish, or full Jewish. Henry Hill in Goodfellas, in Bronx Tale, his mom was only half Italian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's never, and Carmela was the same thing. Her father was full 100% Italian, but her mom was Jewish. So he always used to utter the words, "My mom would have loved if I got with you because you're from Avellino, where my people are from." So
right.
Milfy was like the ideal woman for an Italian man to be married to.
Yes. And like I said, it's that, their dynamic is great on screen.
Yes.
Any scene where they're in the office together, to me, is always some of the best stuff on the show, because not only do the two actors have a great chemistry, but you get to see Tony with his guard down a little bit.
Right. He actually opens up.
And of course, Junior, he winds up actually caving on the whole Hesh thing because Tony gets Johnny Sack involved.
Right. Johnny Sack schmoozes him, tells him, we understand you're one of the strongest guys we got. And yes, the tax needs to be paid, but 500 is a little out of line. And they agree on 250, which is still a large amount of money.
Yeah.
But I guess it's half of what you wanted, so okay, fine. And then Tony and Junior go to a baseball game, which none of their children are playing in, so I didn't understand that part, but I guess they couldn't be in the public eye seeing each other. And Tony begins explaining about Augustus Caesar and Octavia and so on, and how, he was loved by his people because he gave. But Junior's not buying into that. He doesn't understand what the hell Tony's telling him.
Right.
And then Tony has to deliver a story that to this day I still remember, Nate. I could recite it without seeing it. I know we just watched it a couple weeks ago to get ready for the show. But he tells him, "You once told me about a father and son bull sitting on top of a hill." And the son said, "Dad, look at all those cows down there. Why don't we run down there and sleep with one of them?" And the father says, "I got a better one. Why don't we walk down there and sleep with them all?" I'm being PG. And Junior finally understands that he's telling him to dish out the money amongst his capos and make good with everybody in the family, which he does. So $50,000 per capo, not bad.
It was a long and more entertaining way of saying you gather more bees with honey.
With honey, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
So, but it's a great story. It's one of those stories that when I'm in a vindictive mood and I'm trying to think of something I have to do, I think back to that scene and I go, he's right. There's no reason to do it quickly.
Right.
Do it slowly. Take care of it slowly. So they work it out, and then Hesh visits Tony, and he's like, "So what ended up happening?" It's like, "We whacked up your $250,000 between the 5 bosses." And Hesh is like, "What'd you do with your end?"
And Tony gives Hesh his cut,
right,
of Hesh's money.
So it only cost Hesh $200,000.
Yes, yes. But it also It also, and you look at it this way. You look at it two ways. You could look at it as, and he does. You could look at it as Tony respects Hesh, loves Hesh, trusts Hesh, and
Right.
Hesh is his friend. But you also, in the line of business they're in, there's always an ulterior motive for everything.
Right.
Because somebody can be your best friend tomorrow or today, but tomorrow you have to have him whacked. So there's two things going on here. Tony is, yes, being respectful of Hesh and giving him his money back and showing him, his love and his respect. But he also knows that at some point he's going to be the boss, and he's going to need Hesh,
and he's going to need a favor.
Yes, and
it works out.
More bees with honey.
Right, and on top of that, he fixed all his capos who were pissed off about not making anything. He got them $50,000 in their pockets immediately, and he made his uncle happy because his uncle got the tax Hesh, which is what he wanted to do anyway. You know what I mean? So it all worked. Everybody got what they wanted. And in the grand scheme of it all, Tony knows he's going to get eventually what he wants, which is everything.
Yes. And then I also wrote down here before we get to that last scene, because I didn't really focus on anything with Tony and his Guma. And she annoys the shit out of me anyway. A lot of the later on, there's developments where I like that, but in these earlier episodes, that girl just annoys me. Like his scenes with her annoy me.
Yeah.
But one thing I did note before we get to the last scene of the show, which is a very important scene, but and this is where the script is where you can say this is a well-written script, because you have to put something like this in here. We see Tony and Carmela have lots of confrontational moments.
Yes.
There need to be moments like they have, and I wrote it down here. They have a sweet moment by the pool. There need to be moments where you see that they really do love each other, because other than that, it's this shallow marriage that you can't. I'm not going to be emotionally invested in this couple. It's nice. It's nice once in a while, a few times a season, where they give us a scene where you can see they really do love each other.
Yes, they do, exactly. And he had to once again prove his love, which is understandable. Sometimes wives get a little insecure, you know what I mean? And they need to hear that you love them, you respect them, you want to be with them. And in the grand scheme of it all, Carmela was very upset that Milfy can help Tony and she can't. And she wanted her husband to know that she was there for him. So in the same regard, he looked at her and told her, "You're my life, you're my everything." And that made everything better. So it was a nice feel-good moment to end the episode. We didn't so much hate Carmela at that point. We understood where she was coming from a little bit.
Right. Yes. And that, like I said, something like that is important.
Definitely.
Because you want your characters to have dimension. I don't want to see just that this couple is just at each other's throats all the time. Like I said, I want to see they're a married couple with 2 kids and a life that isn't just the mob, and it's important to have scenes like this to
I agree,
especially in a show that's going to run as long as the show's going to run.
Well, right. Look, we've seen Junior grow as a character, as now the boss. Tony has grown from episode 1 to now where we are in 6 in a big way. So if Carmela isn't growing, and then the other characters, it can't just be a 2-person show. Then it wouldn't be a series, it would just be the Tony and Junior show. So we have to pretty much understand where everybody's coming from. And in some ways, we learn where Olivia was coming from after all this time.
Yes.
And why she was so bewildered and shy and timid as an older woman because of how boisterous she was as a younger woman, and we learn about Chris. This was the perfect time for Carmela to come out of her what's the word out of her cocoon, and blossom as a character, because we were 6 episodes in, and all we got from her for the first 6 episodes was bitch.
Yes,
bitch,
venom.
Bitch.
Yes,
right. So now it was, I want to help you, but I don't know how. Oh, okay, good. She doesn't just use him for his money. She's not just with him because he's a mob boss. So,
yes. And then, of course, important scene to end this show. we have the Capos. They're all at dinner. And
they're celebrating Junior as the new boss.
Yes, because that, like you said, the gist of it is that Tony got Junior to settle the fuck down.
Right. Right.
And so now, he's finally getting his celebratory dinner. They're all
Which
toasting
is what he's
him.
been wanting. Right. He's been
Yes.
wanting this since Johnny and he were younger men.
Mm-hmm. And you can see it in his face. Yep. I can never remember the actor's name, but that guy is so good with his face.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
At conveying the emotions.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. The thing I never understood, though, because obviously this scene comes to an end. They're all saying, salute to Junior and how happy they are for him to be the new boss. And then we find out that one of the waiters is wearing a pocket cam and taking pictures of everybody. So it's the FBI finding out that Junior is the new boss. Now, that's fine and well. The FBI would have found out who he was anyway because they keep a tab on everything. But I've never understood in these mob movies, and obviously this happens in real life too, from what I understand from seeing so many mob documentaries. Why do the mobsters have a party to celebrate the new boss when that's basically putting him in the public eye?
Right.
You know what I mean?
even
for such a secret society.
Even if you're in the back room of one of your restaurants,
right?
People are going to notice.
Home.
But yeah, people are going to, well, and like I said, if you're in the back room of a restaurant, people are going to notice a bunch of mob bosses shuffling into the back room of the restaurant.
In fancy suits, right? And going, oh, congratulations. What are we congratulating them on? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, why? For such a secret society.
You join the Chamber of Commerce, You join the Chamber of Commerce. It's Waste weird. Management.
I've always wondered that, like, why do you have, I get celebrating, but do it in a different way. You know what I mean? Don't do it so out in the open that you're celebrating him being the boss. And now we see the pincushion board. Junior's the new boss. Tony's the underboss. They have it all pinpointed out who everybody is and who they're going after. So Tony essentially got what he wanted. Junior is now in the public eye as the boss, so he's the first to go down if anything gets brought up.
And overall, I would say if we're giving, out of 5?
Right.
Yeah, if we're giving out of 5, actually, to be honest with you, I'd give this episode a 4. There's lots of good character development here and stuff going on with Junior. And the development, like I said, with Carm and Tony, and with Tony and Hesh, and
with
just
Tony
a lot.
Murphy, right?
Yes, and
I agree with you. I agree with you on a 4. The only reason I will not agree that it wasn't a 5 is the rest of Tony's crew was not present.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see Paulie, we didn't see Silvio, we didn't see Christopher. It was strictly about the capos, which is fine, but. We got so much development from everybody else. It would have been nice to flesh out maybe Paulie a little bit or something that early on.
Right.
Because all we know of Silvio and Paulie is, as of right now, well, they used to work with Johnny. And they're beholden to Tony. That's it. So, but definitely I say a strong 4.
And like I said, I'd agree with you. Join us next week to find out what we think of the next episode, because I'm not as we'll get to it next week.
Well, I'll give them a little bit of a spoiler. It's a very one-sided episode in that we're only factoring in on really one big thing going on in the Soprano household, not the family.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very one-sided. It's a good episode. And we get some revelations about Tony, but not enough about the mob side, more about the person side. So I understand where you're going with that.
And we will reveal that next week. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. And I know Archie does too.
Yes, I do.
And check us out. If you check out the WNR Podcast Network on YouTube, if you prefer to listen to your podcasts on YouTube, I am posting our shows on the WNR Podcast Network page on YouTube.
Yeah.
So do check those out if that's where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Don't worry, it's a YouTube video, but it's just an image. You don't have to see our ugly mugs.
Unless you want to take a vote, let us know. If you want
if you want to see them,
I'll get in character.
I'll put on. I'm gonna dress like Polly Walnuts if we have to do
That-
that.
Well, I have the hair for Foley Walnut, so I think you'd have to dress like Silvio.
All right, I can do Silvio, and I can do the chin. I'll do the chin even. I'll do
All
the
right,
chin.
there you go. There you go.
But join us next week, everybody, for our review of season 1, episode 7. It is entitled Down Neck, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.